Hoping everybody is tuning in today. And can you believe we are already at episode 10? And we have a special guest today. We are very excited. We have Andrew Tang back in the house. Welcome, Andrew. We are so thrilled to have you today because we have an amazing title and you are the probably techiest tech person we have. So we know you're going to dive right into Azure-Powered nonprofits. This is all about scaling iMIS automation and performance in the cloud. And you are joining Joe, who's going to kind of take on the strategy aspect. So we've got some really good stuff to balance out the conversation. So, hey, Joe, how are you today?
I'm doing great. It's good to be back. I just wanted to mention to our viewers that we recognize the delay with this platform, and we're going to be switching platforms because we want higher quality for our viewers. So that's coming. Thank you.
Yeah, we've been having a little bit of tech issues here, and we haven't been too happy. So, we're fully transparent. Right? If we love something, we're going to let you know that we love it. And if we don't, we're going to point it out that something's not working. And we like the high
software support people. We have high standards for support too. Our customers do as well. So,
Yep. And so some things have been really good, but the last couple times we want to bring you the best. And that's why we got the two best people here to talk all about Azure and DevOps. So you want to dive right in. So I did have to write these questions down. Usually I don't like to do that, but this is a little bit of tech going on. And so I think it's important that we kind of set the stage a little bit, Joe. So I'm going to have you take kind of the first question and we outline the key benefits for the nonprofits out there and the associations to tell us owning their own Azure development operation systems, what that DevOps is. So kind of dive in and set the stage for us today.
Good. So this podcast is meant to bring a little bit of the strategy, business side, as well as get into some of the technical details. So just look at this, from a corporate, from a nonprofit executive standpoint, really the big thing, it dramatically increases your capabilities. So I've been supporting the cloud-based iMIS system since it came out since 2019. And routinely there'd be some ask that I would get that I would say, oh, we can't do that because we need elevated permissions, or we can't do that because we don't have a server-side endpoint. So really it opens up a lot of possibilities. There's really not, you pretty much can do anything with the iMIS API. And so it gives you maximum flexibility and it really represents freedom. So now it's like, it's your Azure, it's your software, it represents ownership and it represents the minimal possible long-term cost you could have. So all these things are very important, just from a business standpoint.
Good. All right. So Andrew, I'm going to have you dive into more of the definition and get into kind of defining a few key terms out there. So what exactly is Azure? I like the name of it. What benefits does it have out there? What does it offer? Especially for organizations using iMIS. So kind of give us a little bit of the definition out there.
Great. So Azure is Microsoft's cloud hosting platform, and there's really two parts to it. So the part that I work on a lot is called DevOps, and that's short for development operations, and that's where a lot of the code lives. And that's the process of me developing the code and pushing it onto Azure's cloud platform. So there's Azure DevOps and Azure Cloud. Azure Cloud is the platform that most of our clients will be working on, and that's where all your resources live. That's where you're setting your security. That's where you're setting your passwords. So essentially how it works is that I develop code on DevOps and I push it out to the resources on the cloud. So Azure, as Joe has said, is the server-side endpoint and does give us a lot of flexibility when it comes to clients. I like to tell clients when they have a request, yes, we can do that. And without DevOps, there are a lot of restrictions on what you can do. You have to rely on the security of the default API, which is user level security. And a lot of times you want elevated security. You want elevated permissions, so members can change their pay-through dates or their member types dynamically for a lot of specific join processes. Also, a big thing is the refreshing of dynamic groups. So a lot of memberships are based off of dynamic groups. And what that does is it allows pricing as well as security. Unfortunately, dynamic groups only do refresh at maximum once a day. And the unfortunate part of that is prices don't get updated automatically. So
yeah, I mean, that's a great example, actually, Andrew. That example that you did, where we had a client. A lot of clients want to be able to sell new membership or allow people to renew if they're late and get the discount for a conference. And we did that for a client. We found out in the process it doesn't work without a server-side endpoint. So that's a great example. Yeah.
Yeah, but you touched on something else there, and that kind of leads me to the next question, and that's on security, right? I mean, there is a lot of concern out there for cyber attacks for nonprofits and associations. And so does Azure protect the sensitive data that they have out there? How secure are they?
So Azure is a very secure platform inherently. Microsoft has done a lot of work to make sure that their platforms are secure. And what they do is they have data security in rest as well as in motion. And what that means is when you have data stored on Azure, it's all automatically encrypted in AES 256, that encryption method. And that applies to all blobs, all SQL servers that you host as resources. When you have data in transit, mostly meaning through APIs, TLS 1.2 is automatically enforced for all API requests, whether that's from your server to Azure or from Azure back to your server. And in this case, your server could be an external integration or iMIS. So all of the communications are secure. There's also a very sophisticated access management system in which it's kind of a two-party system. You have Entra, which is security or management of the whole tenant of the whole platform. So you can be global admin over the whole platform. There's also more granular role-based assignment. And what that means is you can be the global admin, but you still aren't able to read the keys in the resources. So there's a lot of levels of security, and essentially Azure makes sure that the wrong actors can't get to the data.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing. So I'll add one thing to that. My understanding is 95% of Fortune 50 companies use Azure to host all their systems. So that's an important piece of information.
Wow.
Yeah,
so they obviously feel pretty comfortable with this. So the nonprofits and associations should feel pretty comfortable too.
Yeah,
so,
you're in good company with the Fortune 50.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask both of you to weigh in on this. So Andrew, I'm going to start with you, because a couple of weeks ago, one of the top episodes we had was on our bridges. And I think it's one of the most important episodes we've ever done, because it really opened up some of the financial benefits of bridges. But I want to have you dive into the key benefits for nonprofits and associations on self-hosting and the program's ability to self-host and bring in their own bridges and this connection. So what bridges, let's really revisit, what bridges at John Consulting we offer that are available. I know you're also working on some amazing new ones that are going to be coming up. I'd like for you to kind of dive into a little bit of the technology of this, but Joe, I want you to kind of dive into the strategy and revisit this, because the two of them together are just so powerful. So Andrew, let's start with you.
Right, so some of the bridges that we've developed are for Zoom and for Higher Logic, Inform, SurveyMonkey, WordPress. So there's a few there. The ones that we have been developing are for Constant Contact and for Cvent and ActiveCampaign. And the benefit of having all of your bridges on Azure is that you can really package all of your customizations together. So not only can you have your bridges, you can have your integrations, you can also have your custom syncs. So everything can be packaged in one platform. So you don't have a different system for one bridge and a different system for another integration, so you can have everything together. And everything is also very low cost in the sense that you're just paying for server costs. You're not paying for recurring subscriptions. Another great benefit is that all of the management and logging is connected, in which there is unified logging for all of the bridges. Anything that's changed in the data is all logged, and I can go and review that. So those are some great benefits to having everything on Azure.
So Joe, do you want to add to that?
Yeah.
Can you give me a little bit more information on the pricing, the cost?
Sure. Well, I just wanted to run down quickly the bridges that we have. We have the Zoom and Blue Sky for webinars and virtual events. These are bridges that are already built. So these are done, ready to go. And these are all built with all the features that are available for other bridges, and then maybe some extras that our clients wanted. So they're fully functional and fully automated. We also have both Higher Logic Community and Higher Logic Informs Marketing Bridge. We have a SurveyMonkey bridge, which is great, because again, without elevated permissions, people have to be logged in to write anything to iMIS. And then we have a WordPress integration, which allows you to push your security out into WordPress. That's very common for organizations to have a WordPress site in addition to iMIS, and they kind of use their iMIS to enforce security on their WordPress site. We have a Service Reef, which is conference-based. And then we also have coming soon Constant Contact and Cvent. And these are bridges that Andrew has built since the summer. So he can build them very quickly. And so as far as pricing goes, we basically price our one-time product fee in line with our competitors' annual fee. So you're only paying that price once, and you don't have like follow-up payments every year at a 5% or 10% increase. So like Andrew said, it's a huge savings. So, but keep in mind, Andrew uses AI in his workflow. He's extremely fast. We've been able to turn around brand new bridges built from scratch, usually between 6 and 12K, depending on what it is. So if you have a bridge and you think it makes sense to pay a little more in the first year and then pay nothing forever, which is, I think it's a good idea. That's a good opportunity for you as well. So,
right. The one thing that I was shocked about is just the sheer cost savings year after year after year. It's like, why rent this when you literally can own this? Is there any bridge you can't?
The sales department will be like, okay, well, they do a 3-year analysis. And so, it's not that big of a difference when you look at 3 year, because you pay a little more in the first year, but then you look at it over 10 or 20, it's a ridiculous number. It's a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there any bridge John Consulting can't build? Like, really? We're that good.
I want to share a quick story. Andrew, we had to build a bridge for Absorb, and Absorb uses a fundamentally totally different technology. So it basically, what iMIS uses OAuth 2, and Absorb uses SAML. So most people wouldn't even know what to do in that situation. Andrew knew off the top of his head he had to build a, what was that called?
I call it a converter. A transformer or a converter.
So he basically just like, essentially you're passing XML either way. So he basically converted the one tech to the other. And he knew right off the top of his head what to do, and he did it, quickly. So that was and that has a whole interface with the workflow where they can, it's a very, very complicated, and the client's very happy with it. Yeah.
Nice. So, Joe, I think this is for you. If a nonprofit properly builds a bridge or other systems using only the iMIS RESTful API to unite to iMIS, what impact will this have on the upgrade? Is this for you or for Andrew?
Yeah, it's for me. I took this one because I've been around a long time, and it's really, if you go back 15, 20 years or even 10 years, the word customization was a bad word, because back then you customize something, now your upgrade is a pain, and it's all this extra testing, and it basically it's this custom that sits outside of iMIS. So when you properly build an API app that only properly uses the iMIS API to write to iMIS, it's essentially a part of your product. The iMIS API is supported and upgraded just like the rest of the product. Properly built API apps are fully supported just like the product.
Interesting. All right, so let's talk data integrity. All right, so it's important for the nonprofits. They want safeguards. It's provided, right? What's provided in DevOps to ensure the best data integrity? So, Joe, you want to go first, and
So
Andrew,
I
maybe
wanted
you
to
can talk
start
about
on this
security.
one and then get Andrew to add to it because he can always add a lot more technical details than I can. But I think really, I mean, looking at this question, data integrity, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is we always 100% we don't set people up with a DevOps without a test instance. So you're always going to have a test instance, and for $300 a month, you can get ASI to set up a test instance of your system in iMIS, and you have a test instance of iMIS and a test instance in your DevOps. So that way you can have a really proper workflow to make sure everything is ready to go before you push it out live. Azure does have the best available security. They have a hosting as a service model, and hackers don't like it. I did mention this before, but something like 95% of Fortune 50 companies use Azure. So clearly they're the leader in security. But Andrew, did you want to add about the safeguard security?
So what we do and what's really supported by Azure is logging. It's a lot of detailed logging. And the benefit of Azure is that they have a custom service called Azure App Insights. And inherently, something that people have avoided a lot is logging out every single response, every single API change. And the reason behind that is these API logs get really, really long. And what Azure has done is they've made a service that automatically clears the logs after 30 days. So you can have a lot more detailed logs. And so if any user or any client finds that there is some change that they find that is unexpected, we can go back into logs and see exactly what changed and when. So that's a lot of granular analysis that we can do there. Also, there's some other security options too that are automatically set now. So there's a multi-factor analysis. So there's MFA, needed for login. There's also Microsoft Defender, which is kind of a service that goes around your database to make sure that there's nothing that's corrupted, no bad actors in there. And also all of the front-end portals that we do create come with logins. So there's no funny business that's going to go on, even in staging as well.
And who owns our DevOps? Who owns the DevOps, Andrew?
So the client owns the cloud hosting platform, but it is our side that manages the DevOps.
Right, the tenant's in their name, and they
the
grant
tenants,
access. It's everything's in their name. It's theirs. If they want to revoke our access, and I mean, they have total control. Yeah, that's the point.
So if they have total control, and let's say they don't want to work with John Consulting, somebody else can take that over and know how to work with it, or do they have to start?
That's right.
Completely. Okay.
No, they don't have to start from scratch.
No, all it is basically what it is our partner, our hosting partner, adds Andrew as usually an admin on the tenant. I mean, he doesn't have to be, but by adding Andrew as the admin, if anything needs to be tweaked or whatever, these are complex setups. He can do it. He makes sure everything's smooth. He adds other people in the organization who wants to be on there, and all they have to do is contact our hosting provider and just say they can dictate who can connect and who can't, and what their permissions are. Yeah.
Okay. So besides bridges, are there other functionalities and features that the nonprofits and associations can get out of DevOps? I'll start with Andrew first, and then Joe, I'd like for you to weigh in.
Right. Something that's pretty big in iMIS is something called change notifications, or it's also known as webhooks. And what that allows you to do is you can make any action based off really any trigger in the database. So if someone changes a data field, if someone changes a preference, we can do something in response to that. One example of what we've been doing is for bridges and for integrations, something that is big is just in-time updates. So it's not an update that's delayed by 30 minutes or an hour. When someone changes a preference right away in iMIS, we can use a webhook to immediately do a data change in the other system. So there's a immediate response that we can do.
Yeah, we have a client actually, a very large client that's using Active Campaign, and we've got iMIS. When they update their iMIS preferences, it updates that immediately. Yeah, that's a great example.
And I'll tell you, Active Campaign is actually one of my favorite platforms out there. So just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, another great example of the isn't it a webhook that they use in the Zoom bridge? Because the Zoom bridge writes it in real time when people show up and if they left and how long they stayed. Is that using a function or a webhook?
So
I know that's real time.
So Blue Sky is using, so that's also for registrations. Zoom is delayed by 30 minutes, but Blue Sky is, and we can configure Zoom to use the webhook as well. It's just that specific client didn't necessarily want immediate
It's
things.
available.
Yeah, right. So it's available when we need it.
That's great. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that a little bit. I wanted to give some examples to people because I think people really understand examples, when you talk about technology. One example that we ran into where we needed a server-side endpoint, and the client had one already, was selling membership as part of a conference registration. That's a very popular ask. People want to say, hey, for expired members or non-members, if they just add the join or the renew in the cart, they get the discount. They don't want people to do 2 transactions. So that's a popular thing to ask for. You got to make sure, though, if they take the join out of the cart, that the price gets set back to the non-member. So things like that the kind of dynamic interaction between iMIS and the website, we actually needed a server-side endpoint to make that work. So you're going to sometimes run into things where you have something you're asking for and the system won't do it because it's a permissions issue. So this just eliminates any permissions issues that you might run into. I think anytime you want to take any input from any anonymous user, got to have elevated permissions. So ASI has this great standalone panel that's perfect for writing like anonymous, information submissions, but you can't write to it if you don't have a server-side endpoint. I think. Permissions works around. There's several apps in the community, like the one Chapter Link, where they give chapter admins elevated permissions to create events or use the iMIS email marketing system. You could do that yourself if you have your own DevOps. So these are just some examples, but I think it's hopefully enough to give people an idea.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about technology, and I think that's important. We have technical people who tune in, who watch the replays, and this is their jam. But you have a lot of associations who, the people tuning in are not as tech savvy. Yeah. And so they're probably curious about, what is the tech learning curve? What's the onboarding look like? What's the management of this? And, what's the learning curve here? Can you give people a little bit of an idea of what this is all about and what the management process looks like? And Joe, let's start with you on this.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were in the middle of asking the last question. I think one thing to keep in mind is that we're talking about Microsoft here. Everybody is familiar with Microsoft products. So Azure DevOps interface is just another Microsoft product. People that use regular Microsoft are easily trainable on how to use it. Another thing that a lot of our clients like is that, since you're getting your DevOps through an official Microsoft partner, they consolidate all their Microsoft billing into one invoice. So now they're paying for all their Office, everything is just, so it's a way for you to consolidate your invoice, and your hosting provider will provide that for you. Those are a couple things, but I wanted Andrew to weigh in on this one as well.
Right. So since they separate DevOps and the cloud platform, DevOps is more for developers, and then they make the cloud platform a lot easier for average day users to use. What I've also seen is that they've been integrating Copilot heavily into the cloud platform, and Copilot can actually do a lot of the actions that you want for you. So, for example, if I want to check my billing, I don't necessarily need to go through the web interface, which isn't too complicated, but I can just ask Copilot on the side, what is my billing for this month look like? And it'll direct me to the link, and it will also give me a breakdown. So really anything that you want to do or don't know how to do, you can ask Copilot, which is a new feature. And I feel like it's such a great thing.
But let me add, Andrew's going to still give you a great document. Even though you can find it with AI, you're still going to get a great training document. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joe, that was not the last question. We actually created quite a few for this today because there was so much to cover. Yeah. So you came up with 9 questions today. This was, quite a few. So, and you gave it to Andrew. So what are the advantages of using Azure self-hosting compared to traditional ways organizations automate their data and syncs and data integrations? So it's the final one.
Yeah, well, going back to, it's kind of the theme of our whole discussion. Azure is really a platform where you can do anything on. You can have different resources, you can have web apps, webhooks, you can have different storage models, you can have SQL servers. So really, the idea is that you can have everything in one place. You can have bridges, you can have your syncs, you have your customizations. Anything that you want to do, you can do on Azure. And any update that you want, you can also do on Azure. So the issue with a lot of customizations in the past is that they're kind of a fixed product. If they're built a certain way to start off in, you can't really make an update without changing it for everyone. When you do have your own Azure platform, you have the availability to bring in essentially every single web resource you can think of, and then you can do really anything that you put your mind to. So the flexibility and the centralized nature of it is something that's great. Also, out of all the hosting models, Azure is actually very low cost. So if you compare that to even what Google has and what Amazon has, it's essentially just paying for hosting. And Microsoft is such a big company. They have servers everywhere. And so speeds are great too. They have really good reliability. Reliability is measured, I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's measured in nines. So Azure is typically 5 nines, which is really good. What that means is 99.999% reliability. So there's almost no downtime at all.
You know what, you kind of just summed it up, right? That's like the best way to close because you gave like a full circle. So end to end. That was a nice job. See, Joe, you didn't even realize the last question was going to pull it all together, right?
Yeah, I'd like to add to it, if it's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's your live stream.
I try to be
it's all you.
I try to keep the ego in check. Yeah, I just wanted to really quickly, just touch on what Andrew said. Like when I knew this is something we needed. And I kind of, I was more focused on being a CEO than a tech. And when we brought in Andrew and connecting with our partner, when he told me $22 a month plus usage, I'm like, are you serious? So let me read off here what people get for $22 a month plus usage. This is our basic package. And by the way, we have some brochures for this, so you guys can get this and then the document on all the bridges and everything like that. So with the basic package that supports up to 30 transactions per minute, actually, it probably do more than that, but that's a safe number. And it comes with an Azure function app. This is what we talked about with the functions, where you could do automatic updates. It comes with a SQL Azure database. This is not a database that you would keep stuff permanently in, but sometimes when you're feeding between systems, you want a holding place. So that comes with it. It comes with a webhook endpoint. So these are your triggered events. Remember the SQL triggers? You want things to happen immediately. This replaces that. It doesn't cause the problems in the legacy. So you get a webhook endpoint, so you can create triggers. Those triggers can be triggers inside iMIS, or they can be triggered for outside systems. It comes with the Azure App Service. And this is for web hosting platforms, for apps, APIs, and backends. So if you want to build your own API for your organization, you can do that on your Azure DevOps. It comes with a key vault. The key vault is where you securely store all your valuable passwords. It comes with application insights to give you all insights of how things are going. And very importantly, it comes with what we call a staging system. So everything I just described is also encapsulated in a test environment, so you can securely and test things with a test environment. So I mean, $22 a month for all that. It's just it's a really great deal. Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful conversation, gentlemen. And yeah, really, really good. And Andrew, I'm so glad you were able to join us because you gave an unbelievable perspective on the tech side. And I think that's so important. I can't wait to pull out little snippets of this and be able to use this. And Joe, it was a great compliment for the synergy to look at both, the business side of it for nonprofits and that strategy side. So thank you so much. And everybody out there, thank you for tuning in. And I hope you'll be able to watch the replay. We'll pull a few of these, these tips and these insights for you for the next 2 days as well. And so we hope you'll tune in for those. You can see those on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn again. And please go ahead and follow, subscribe, connect with us. And of course, if you want to talk with Andrew for your next growth project, as well as Joe, you just have to, pick up the phone or email them. Go to our website, johnconsulting.net. Do I have that right? I really hope so. And you also can get a free consult. Wouldn't that be awesome? And I think
I just want to add
ready.
Quickly. I just want to say, thanks, Maureen. She dealt with some serious tech issues today, but she hung in there. This is the last time we're going to go through this herky-jerky recording. So sorry for that. We're looking to and I just thanks Maureen for hanging in there with the tech issues.
Yeah, it has been a little bit of a challenge, but what I like is that we get some great content out there, and we will be able to utilize this in some amazing articles and insights that we will pull from this. So thank you for those who worked through it, who tuned in, and great conversation. Please go ahead and follow us. We have great newsletters that you can subscribe to, and we will be back with episode 11 with another incredible topic so that you can lead, adapt, and grow. We'll be back next time. Thank you again, gentlemen, and appreciate all the great content. We'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you very much, Maureen.
Thank you. Have a good day. Take care. Take care all.